Hello everyone, welcome to Mobile Flock, and we are here on a Saturday morning. Thanks for joining. Okay, so how many people are here? 10 people are right now joined. Thanks everyone for joining on a Saturday morning, and be ready for some exciting sessions from number of good people here. So fine. So we will be having three sessions today, and after the each session, we will be having a different kind of Q&A session, right? Breakout sessions, so that you can ask your queries as well, right? And we have okay, people are joining, right? Let's wait for more people to join. And I would like to seriously thank everyone who are joining, because it is not easy to get up in the morning on a Saturday morning, right? Especially, and start your laptop for learning stuff. Okay, fine. Nice, more people are joining. Cool. So we will be starting our first session within 7 minutes. Before that, we will be having another co-organizer with me, Meet, who will be speaking to you guys. Hey all, Deepak, Dheeraj, Vivek, Ajay, Akshay, thank you all of you. Okay, fine. So Meet will be joining us.
Hello,
So hi
everyone.
Meet.
Hi, Lavkesh. Thanks for opening this session up. Hello, everyone. Uh, Good morning. And I kind of hear Lavkesh that he kind of carrying a heavy voice, and so am I. So it seems that winter has taken a piece of all of us these days, more than winter. So sometimes, like I feel like if my nose is not kind of sounding good, then it must be Corona or something like that. So uh, I understand that it's not funny stuff, but um, yeah, winter is kind of uh, uh, making some changes in our lives these days.
Okay, I think
Yeah, so there was some power outage actually, so I kind of restored my internet at least. um, so thanks all guys for joining us for this session today. As Lavkesh kind of shared already that we'll be having three session. We kind of tried and sharing it on all the platforms that what we are kind of what kind of sessions we are presenting here. I'll be soon after these 2-3 minutes when I'll hand over this to Mohit for his first session. I'll be posting a couple of links in the stream chat as well as on the event. One is for the teams link, wherein we'll have our breakout sessions, wherein like our speakers would be there and you can chat with them, sort out your curiosities or anything that comes in your mind. You can ask those things from them. And other than that, we can kind of have a little networking, have that little fun, and kind of recall those a few moments between the sessions which we used to enjoy when we had offline meetups and all. So that's would be via Teams, and I'll be sharing that link soon after we'll start Mohit's session. And there would be another link of a form. This form is to kind of get the details from you guys to kind of keep our networking going. And second thing is around um, to get the feedbacks for the session. So it's like I kind of really thank Mohit, uh, Mohit, Mustafa, Ravi for kind of coming out on the Saturday morning and spreading the knowledge that with all of us and sharing some of their experiences with us. Um, so it would be great if we can leave some notes of feedback for them to improve, for to kind of appreciate the effort and everything. And thanks a lot for Tata Click too for helping us facilitate this meetup. So. That's all, guys, and I think nobody wants to hear a lot of these greetings in the morning, because our family groups are already kind of sending a lot of flowers, good mornings and everything. So I think in another 2-3 minutes Mohit Mangla will be live with us. He'll be talking about accessibility. So accessibility is something that everybody wants to achieve. um, they know about it. It looks like a huge work, but as the name of the session says, that there are things that we can kind of achieve with the minimal thing. So imagine that whichever application that you are developing, either it is a social networking one, e-commerce, retail, um, some digital services, OTT, anything. So think about that. If you can really use that application with some impairment, with some um, uh, disability, that if you can't hear or if you can't see, how can you use that application? So it's a challenge, it's a huge challenge. And if you think about not in that sense, not only in that sense that people are impaired or they have some disability, you can think about some old folks also, old people also, who just want to kind of so I see that a lot of old relatives of mine, they kind of share voice notes more than the chats on WhatsApp. So it kind of helps them to kind of reach there. So what we are trying to kind of talk about there is that how we can take that first step, how we can, I mean, it is not just crossing the chasm, it is just making that first step and thinking about accessibility. And for the impaired people, or for the next billion, wherein like we are kind of onboarding all the people who has little difficulty, little to a lot of difficulty using your applications. So that's all would be kind of in a context for Mohit's session, and he can talk about the technical stuff. Over to you, Mohit. um, um, Please enlighten us with the first step that you have to share with us. And thanks everybody for joining us in the morning. Let's see if we can kind of share some knowledge here.
Okay, so we will be talking about the accessibility in this session. So first of all, let me introduce myself. So my name is Mohit Mangla, and I am working as a lead developer in Tata Click. And prior to that, I was in IBM Sapient and uh, Edison as also. So there, I was working as a mobile developer, and apart from that, I have some knowledge in the backend platform as well. So I was developing some APIs in the Node.js. So I have around 8+ years of experience in software development. Yeah, so that is all about me. So I think we can start with the session now. Let me share my screen. Okay, so let me start. So this will be our agenda for today. So we will be talking on the voiceover, speech to text, and the Siri kit. So first of all, we need to understand what is the problem. So the problem is for those who are having any kind of impairment and they are not able to use our application. So how can we make our app accessible for those who are having any kind of impairment? So why we are not making our app accessible? So there are some myths behind that. And people think that there are not so many people who are having impairments, but that is not the case. So and it is time consuming. No, it is not time consuming. You can like do it while doing your usual development. And no app is too complicated if you are going to make it accessible. So people can have any kind of impairment. So it can be blindness, it can be deafness, and it can be like they are having uh, uh, dyspraxia, which is something the brain is not developed as per their age, and they are not able to multitask anything. So, but today we will be talking about the blindness. So, the blind people who are having blindness, they cannot see the application. So, how will they will use the application using the voice? So, that we will talk about. So, this is the report which WHO published in 2011 that 15% of the world's population, around 7 billion from 1 billion people. Okay, so as per the report, around 1 billion people from 7 billion are having some kind of impairment. So that is a huge number. And according to the according to a report, 75% of the FTSE 100 companies in the UK do not meet the basic level of the accessibility. So these 15% of the people are not able to use these applications.
So can you hide that? Okay, fine. Now it is on the presentation mode. Great.
Okay.
Okay, continue.
So yeah, so let's start with the voiceover. So voiceover is something we can use we can read the screen using the voice from the mobile phone itself. So it is very beneficial for those who are having limited vision. So we don't have to see the screen while we are using the voiceover, and we can do any kind of uh, we can perform any kind of action using the voiceover itself. So who are having limited vision, they are not uh, they are not supposed to see the screen. They can use the application using the voiceover only, and it is free and built in the iOS itself. It has very high quality, and we can also localize using the voiceover. So how can we use voiceover in the iOS? So the first step is we need to make the UI element accessible for the voiceover. So there is a property which with each of the UI element which is accessible element. So that should be true. So if it is true, then voiceover will assume that that UI element should be spoken while we are using the app with the voiceover. Accessibility label is something, whatever the text is there, so how the voiceover will get to know which text it need to speak. So that value it will take from the accessibility label variable. So with each and every UI element, we need to define accessibility label. And if we are not defining it, then pick the de- it will pick the current text which is there with the UI element. Okay, for image-based control, so there will be no text if we are showing any image. So for that, we need to specify separately the text. So like let's suppose I am showing a t-shirt, polo t-shirt, and there's an image for the polo t-shirt. So what text we should provide to the voiceover, that we will give in the accessibility label for that image. Don't include the control type. So we don't have to write like polo t-shirt image here. So for the control type, we have a separate property that I'll tell you later. Yes, this one. So accessibility traits. So that is something we provide to characterize the accessibility element. So if it is a button, the trait would be button. So how we provide that? So with the UI element, we can access the accessibility traits, and we have different kind of traits for button. We have provided button. For link, we provide the link here, so it will be like order link. So this is how we provide the accessibility trait. And accessibility value is something, let's suppose I am having this slider, and this slider is having a different dynamic values. So that value we provide in the accessibility value. So when the voiceover will speak, it will speak like it will take the text from the accessibility label and the value from the accessibility value. Accessibility hint is something we need to provide some description about that UI element. So let's suppose there is an order button. So the text on the button is order. So that voiceover will pick from the accessibility label. The button is something we have given in the accessibility trait. And this description we need to provide in the accessibility hint. So when the voiceover will go on the button element, so the voiceover will speak like order button, double tap to order product. So that will be the combination of the text that voiceover will speak. So for that also we have a separate property, accessibility hint, and we need to provide the text here. We can so this is something we were providing the uh, voiceover properties programmatically. So but we can also add it into the XIV or storyboard. So there is a separate section for adding the accessibility. So we can like provide the accessibility label here, hint here. Identifier is something we use for the automation. So if you are automating your app, then you can provide the identifier. It should be unique, and these are the traits available with the element. Okay, so now if you want to check if the voiceover is running on your device or not, then you can check why this bool variable is voiceover running. And oh yes, if there is some change on the screen, so let's suppose I am having a expand collapse feature. So on expanding, my view will be changed, my layout will be changed. So on that case, I can post some notification like screen changed, and I can pass the argument here, and that argument, if I'm passing the label here, that label will be the focus will go on this label when the screen will be changed. And if I pass the string here, then that string will be spoken by the voiceover when the screen will change. So we have separate other notifications also, like announcement and layout change. So you can like look into the Apple document for that. Yeah. So for okay, so let's suppose there are 10 UI elements on the screen, and I want to specify the order. VoiceOver should go through that those elements. So that order I can specify in the accessibility elements, which takes an array, and we can provide the UI elements here. So the VoiceOver order will be as per the array given here. Yes, so that was all about the VoiceOver. So that was the text to speech. So whatever is there as form of text on the screen, that will be converted to speech by the voiceover. But let's suppose a person with limited vision want to type something. So how will he type? So he will open the keyboard. He will go each and every element of the keyboard, and that will be very difficult for him. So it will be great if we provide some kind of speech to text functionality to him. So how can we provide it into the iOS? So that okay, so this is something uh, we can say we can provide the voice assistant to the user, and that can be provided by the dictation or Siri. And we have some other third parties also, like Alexa and Google Assistant. And they will provide the voice input to the speech recognition, and that speech recognition will convert that speech into the text. And from the text, we can get the intent. What is the user intent, and what are the entities there inside that intent. So let's suppose user is saying that how will be the weather tomorrow in Mumbai. So in this text, so this text will be converted by the speech recognition, and then we can uh, by using the natural language and core ML models, we can find out that user wants to know the weather for tomorrow and in the Mumbai. So tomorrow and Mumbai will be the entity, and the intent of the user was knowing the weather. So that we can get from the natural language understanding. And fulfillment is something we can fulfill the query whatever user has done. So we are talking about the voice speech to text. So how the voice is utilized in the app. So we can do the voice search. We can go to any screen using the voice, and we can also perform the actions using the voice. So yeah, so that how can we provide the input? So that is from dictation or AV audio recorder we have, Siri kit we have in the iOS, and output will be the voiceover. We can whatever is the result, we can read it using the voiceover, and we can play the audio player, AV audio player. So that is we can use for the output. So there are three stages: listening stage, voice processing mode, and output mode. Okay, so you can see this video I prepared.
Is editing.
Okay, so I was talking about the speech to text implementation in the iOS. So we have four kind of task to perform. We need to create a recognizer. We need to pass a request to the recognizer. We need to add a task, and we need to see the result from the recognizer. So how we do it? We provide the uh, privacy info in the info.plist, and this will be used when we will ask for the uh, user we will ask for the user permission for using their speech recognition and microphone uses. So that we provide in the info.plist, and we ask for the authorization here. If the authorization status is authorized, then we start the recording here. And while recording, so we can do the speech to text two ways. So first is something we can get the input from a file. So for getting the input from a file, we pass the URL here. We create a recognizer object, and if that recognizer is available, then we create a request with that URL. File URL will be here, and that file URL request we pass in this recognizer object here, recognizer.recognize task. With this request we have created with that URL. So if the URL will be having that file, and recognizer will start the process to recognize the speech, and it will give us the result in this completion block. And if the result we can check, so the result will be so if the result is final, so is final something that it gave us the status of the transcription. So if it is completed, then is final will be true, and if the transcription is completed, then we can get the best transcription from out of the
Uh,
result.
your presentation is still on the ask for permission page. Can you again move it to the other mode, presentation mode that was earlier.
Okay, okay, my bad.
Okay.
Yes, so I was explaining this. So this is how we can convert a speech file into the text. So we provide a recognizer object here. If the object is available, we create a request with the URL of the file, and we process that request using the recognizer object we created here. And if the result is provided in this completion block, and in this completion block we can check if the result is final or not. Is final something will be true when the transcription is completed, and we can get the best transcription out of the result. So best transcription is something the core ML model has given us the text based on the most confident uh, uh, so there are confidence level with each and every core ML model. So the best confidence level text will be provided in the best transcription variable, and we can use the formatted string out of that. So that was the transcription from a file. And if we are transcribing a audio buffer, then we need to create a audio engine, AV audio engine here. And that audio engine we create a node from that audio engine. Every node of the audio engine have input and output bus. Input bus is something we get the input from the device microphone, and output bus is something we get the result out of the after the transcription. So that uh, so here we are providing the input node here, and we are installing a tap on the output bus, and here we will be getting the buffer as the user speaks. So audio buffer will be provided here, and those audio buffers will be added to the recognition request. Earlier we were adding the URL, now we are adding the buffer here with the request, and that request will be passed to the same speech recognizer object, and we will ask to recognize the task here, and in the completion block we will be getting the result, and same the best transcription will be used and formatted string will be used. So that is for the audio, and we after then we need to stop the transcription as well. So we need to free up some space from the memory. So audio engine request and recognition task need to be cancelled to free up some space. So that was about the speech to text. So that was something we are converting our voice to text. But for if we are using this technology, so so user need to use your application. But let's suppose we don't want user to go into the application. We want the user to give the command, and we can do the action outside the application itself. So that Siri kit is available now, and we can do that using the Siri kit shortcuts. So I'll tell you how. So first you can see this video. So here there are 3 buttons. So for each and every actions, I am providing a shortcut to the Siri. So when I will tap on view my bills, and when I will say view my bills, Siri will automatically show the my bill on the screen. So for each and every actions, I have uh, provided the shortcut to the Siri. Next time I don't have to provide every time. So this is a one-time activity. So I'll go out from my app. I'll say view my bills. Siri will show my bill on the screen, and we are not inside the app till now. Now I'm saying pay my bill. So Siri is asking me to pay my bill using the Siri, using the application. So I have paid my bill here. Now I want to view my usage. I'm asking Siri to view my usage. Siri is showing me the usage now. So see, if a person is visually impaired and he want to do a quick action, so we can like create some shortcut for him, and he can use that shortcut for using some repeated actions. So how we can do that? So what are the basics of the Siri kit? So Siri kit is some we have extensions of the Siri kit. So there are two kind of extensions. So first is the intent app extension. So intent is something so we can say intent is something which is a user action which is done repeatedly by the user. So that we can call a intent. Okay. So intent app extension is something we provide the handler of those intent, and intent app UI extension is something we show the UI. So we can show the custom UI to the user while user is using the shortcut that I'll show you how. So and domain is something so for each and every intent we need to have some handler, intent handler. So if Apple provides some default domains like ride, so so for the to-do list, for ride booking, for messaging, payment, workout, and many more. So Apple provides the domain for these. Apple provide intent handling for these domains. But if you want to create some custom intent, that also you can do. So I have prepared a demo for that. I'll show you. So shortcut, how can we define? How can we create the shortcut? So for creating shortcut, we need to define it, we need to donate it, and we need to handle it. So first you need to define the definition of the shortcut. Then you need to donate shortcut to the Siri. Donation of the shortcut is something we are adding that shortcut into the Siri. And you have after then we need to handle it using the application. So we can create shortcut using two ways: ns user activity and ns donation. Sorry, only donation. So this is okay. So defining the shortcut is something we are so for the repeating action of the user we can create the intent. For defining the shortcut, first we need to create some intent. So I have created some custom intent here. So as you have shown, as in the demo I was showing that view my bills was one action which a user was performing. So I have created the intent for that. And so for creating an intent, we can like create a new file, and that file will be like intent file definition kind of file. So it will create this kind of file here, and you need to provide the right category here. So as I was viewing the bill, so view will be the category. I can put the title here, and these parameters are something if with the uh, Siri shortcut I want to get some parameter from the user. So let's suppose I'm asking Siri to start my workout. So what kind of workout it will be, Siri can ask. So it will be like, let's suppose run. Then next question, Siri can ask that how many miles you want to run. So we need to provide another input like 2 miles or something. So these kind of parameter we define here. So this will be asked by the Siri for while you were using your shortcuts. So this definition we need to provide for the intent. After defining the intent, so when we provide the intent definition here and we compile the code, iOS automatically define some handler for that intent. So I'll show you how. So before that, we need to see how can we donate a shortcut to the Siri. Now we have intent in place. Now that intent should be added to the Siri. So that we can do using the ns user activity. So we can like create a NS user activity title can be given, and the identifier, unique identifier should be given here. It should be eligible for the prediction. Then we need to make this variable true. There is one more variable is eligible for the search, so you can make it true also. So if you are searching anything and it is matching with your intent, it, it will show you in the search list. And this is the suggested invocation phrase, view my bill. So this is something we were providing in the demo video. So if we are providing this text here, we don't have to provide manually like in the video. And okay, so the second way is to create shortcut is to donating the shortcut to the series. So for that, view my bill intent object need to be created. So that object we can we can create this object when we have defined that intent here. So view my bill intent we have created here. Now we can get the object of view my bill intent here, and that intent object need to be passed inside the ion interaction here. And this using that ion interaction we need to donate. So this method will add the series shortcut inside the shortcut application. So this is how we donate the shortcut. Okay, now we have defined the intent, we have donated the intent, and now we need to handle that intent, right? So for handling that intent, we need to pass some information to the info.plist. And info.plist, we need to pass the number of intent we are going to use using our application. So these three kind of application, these three kind of intent I have created in the definition. So I am providing this into the info.plist, and I need to create an intent handler file with the same name. So this name I have taken from here. So whatever name we are providing here, that file need to be created, and this file need to be created inside the uh, intent extension we will create. Okay, so this handler will override this method, handler method, and in this handler method we can get the intent type. So we can check what kind of intent user is using, what kind of shortcut user is using. So based on that we pass the uh, execution to that particular handler. So in the handler we handle all the intents. So this is basically just navigating to a particular handler of that intent. Okay, so now for handling there are three steps. We need to resolve the intent. Then we first we need to resolve the parameters of the whatever parameter coming from the Siri kit. Then we need to confirm that all the parameters are validated, and now the intent can be handled. And handling is something we can show user the desired output. So this is the three step. So in the handler, so whatever handler we are providing inside here, so this handler is defined here. And as I showed you that we need to resolve it, confirm it, and handle it. So confirm and handle two methods are there. Resolve I have not created because I was not providing any parameter, so that is not required. So I can directly confirm it. In the completion I need to pass the intent response, and inside the handle I need to pass the intent response dot success. And this amount is something, okay, I'll show you where from I'm getting this amount. Okay, and inside the app delegate also I can define this delegate method just to add the so basically let's suppose I am using the shortcut and some action I need to perform inside the application, not outside the application. I need user to navigate inside the application. Then this app delegate this delegate method need to be implemented, and from here I will check kind of which kind of intent it is, and I can navigate to user to the particular screen. Okay, so let me show you the code also. Yes, so this is the demo code which I was showing to you. So here you can see that I have created so I have created three kind of intent. This is the first intent, view my bill, and
Uh,
here I have not given any parameter.
Mohit, you're not presenting.
Oh, I have
Okay,
present.
sure. Yes, yes. Now it is.
Yeah, yeah. So it is the intent file. There are three intent available. So view my bill is something I want to view my bill, and for that I'm not providing any parameter here. And in the response, I want the bill amount. So that property I have added here. So if uh, you want to see the handler of this intent, view my bill intent handler. So see, I'm not resolving any parameter because I have not given any parameter in while defining here. So that why I'm not resolving any parameter. I'm confirming uh, that all the parameters are validated. As there are no parameter, I can directly confirm that. And after the confirming, I need to handle it. So that amount parameter I have taken from the response from here. So, so as you can see that send payment. So there is also amount parameter and view my usage. So what is the user rate, use data, max data, and month. So these three parameters are defined inside the response of view my usage. You can see. So whenever we are defining this file, the handler protocols. So these handling protocols are created by the system, and we can use these protocol methods here. So these are the two. So this is the intent extension where we are overriding the handler method and redirecting user to the specific handler of that intent. Yes. So yeah. So also we can provide the custom UI. So here I'm intent UI extension. I need to config. I need to call this method configure view, and here we can provide the custom UI as well. Okay. So yeah. So that was all about the Siri. Yeah. So yes, guys, I'm done with my session. So you can ask question if you have any.
So thanks, Mohit. Thanks for the nice session. So guys, I've already posted a Teams link, right? You can join that link and have one-to-one, talk with Mohit regarding the Q&As, right? Regarding the session that Mohit given. I must say that it was a good session, Mohit. So let us join that link and have, you know, one-on-one talk.
Thanks, Lavkesh, for giving this opportunity.
So, guys, we will be back once that we will finish the session, the Q&A session, right? So please
Okay.
come back after exact 5 to 10 minutes, right? We'll be starting in a new session from Ravi. That would be, more exciting, right? So please stay tuned. I'll post the that link again. So here is the link. Teams link. Please join that link. Mohit will be available there, and we can have chat. Hey guys, we are back here to the stream. So I think let's wait for the people to rejoin. So people are coming back from the stream. So if you guys have any question apart from that that we discussed here, you can post here also in the link, right? Okay, people are coming back. Fine. So next is Ravi. So from accessibility to security, both are important topics. So Ravi will be having a will be giving a talk on app security. So we will be going like some 11 o'clock. So Ravi, I'm adding Ravi here. Hi Ravi.
Hi. Hi, guys. I hope you can hear me correctly.
Yes, you're loud and clear.
Awesome. 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 Nice. Wow. Okay. So, hi, guys. There were a lot of technical glitches, but I think we are sorted now. So, yeah, let's begin. And thanks, Lavkesh, for inviting me here. So, this session is about iOS app security. And what I'm trying to have the aim of this session is so that you don't have to learn that the hard way by getting your apps hacked or something, right? So, yeah, is my screen presenting?
Yes, Ravi.
Lavkesh?
Yes. We can
Okay,
see.
great. Okay, because I was actually connected with YouTube as well, and there seems to be a lag, so that's why I got confused. I'll just ignore that now. Okay, awesome. So let's start, guys. So basically, who am I? I am basically Ravi Agarwal, and I'm an engineering manager at Tata Click. Before that, I was at Tokopedia as an iOS lead, right? And here are a few tags where you can follow me. And since this is a lightning talk, so I won't waste much of the time because we have a lot of things to discuss. So in the interest of time, let's move on and see what do we have in this agenda, right? So here is the agenda, and we'll be looking at some of the common security breaches and how we can prevent them, like jailbreak or having sensitive keys, URL schemes, and third-party dependencies. And there are many more topics of common security breaches, but these are some of the major ones. So we'll be discussing about them in some detail. And at the end, there will be a few resource links which you can use to explore, right? Yeah. So moving forward, the first item is jailbreak detection. So basically, when an iOS device is jailbroken, the user of that iOS device gets the complete root access. And with that and some malicious intent and root access, an attacker can mess with your app by changing the stored information. He can steal and sell sensitive information like passwords and other authentication details stored on the device. Let's say if your server key is exposed in the device and that gets stolen, then the attacker can easily gain access to your server, right? And probably download some data, leak it online, and things like that. He can also tamper with in-app purchases and open areas of the app which are supposed to be paid and without paying anything, right? So although not every app needs to check for jailbreak, it depends on your use case, right? I hope it's visible now. All right, so where was I? Although not every app needs to check for the jailbreak, and it depends on your use case. Here are some common use case where the jailbreak is recommended. First are the finance apps, and particularly those which deal with user fund details and allows the users to move those funds from one account to other, right? Second category are the apps that store some sensitive user information on the device. Third are the apps that needs to protect the in-app purchases. Fourth are games that needs to deal with users who might be using bots or other hacks, right? And lastly, to protect some intellectual property on the app, which might be dealing with the company's business, right? And there could be more cases where jailbreak is needed, but these are some of the highly recommended areas. Now, how do you check for jailbreak? There are some popular techniques to check it. And you can basically you begin by assuming that the device is already jailbroken, right? So then you can perform checks for root paths like bin bash using file manager or fopen-stat, fopen-stat or access. And basically there are a lot of other C APIs which will check for the root paths, right? You can check. You can also check for path permissions using file manager and startfs. Another solution is to check if you can fork or open a process. And normally in iOS, our apps are sandbox. And when we try to fork any process, the sandbox daemon will disallow us. This is not true for jailbreak, and no such sandboxing exists, right? So that's why if you're able to fork or open a process, that means the device that you're dealing with is jailbroken. Another interesting technique is to check the count, check the dynamic libraries currently loaded in the memory, right? And you can also check for the count of those libraries. With this, you can check for suspicious dialects and also compare the count of those dialects when you install your app in a normal iOS device, how many dialects are loaded, and when it is in jailbroken, is there a change in the number of loaded dynamic libraries, right? And for those, you can use these C functions called dilate image count and dilate image name, right? Now, and this is a big but, there are a lot of opinions on whether we should implement the jailbreak or not. That is because it is not 100% foolproof, right? There exist tools that can fool your app into thinking that the root access is not available by denying them the path access to anything outside the app for the duration. When you're checking the jailbreak. Forking, in this case, forking will also fail because those tools will disallow your app to fork any process, right? Also, there exists tools like Xcon, which help to bypass all file checks such that you cannot check whether the files for jailbreak tools like Cydia exist or not. What's more is that it is available free of charge, and it's not a hard to use tool. Like they brag by saying that just plug and play, no configuration is needed, install and go, right? A hacker can also replace the return value of your jailbreak check function. Let's say if you have a function called isJailbreak and it returns a value true or false, it is very easy to hook that function and return the value false every time, right? They just need to find the location of that function in your code, right? So as you can see that we cannot guarantee 100% whether the jailbreak detection will work successfully or not, right? But what we can guarantee with 100% certainty is that a motivated hacker will always bypass all the jailbreak checks. So that sounds awfully demotivating, right? So what can we do? And this is where the controversy comes in, because eventually we are going to fail. Every protector fails in front of a motivated hacker, right? First thing is you need to understand that 100% detection is impossible. All you can do is make it harder and time consuming to bypass your jailbreak detection methods by putting checks at random places. You should avoid using Objective-C. Like it is said that Objective-C was made to reverse engineer. It is a black hat hacker's paradise, right? You should avoid naming your jailbreak methods in obvious words, right? When the app is decompiled, they become easily searchable and even easier to plug, right? We'll look at how that happens later. Also, you can use some of the third-party apps like iOS Security Suite that gives you all this implementation out of the box. But one caveat with that iOS Security Suite pod is that they use relatively easier naming, like just is jailbreak or is device jailbroken or not. So maybe you might have to tinker with some of the code of that library, right? Now, if you want to explore any further, you can visit these links and find out more about jailbreak checks and how these tools bypass them. These slides will be shared, so you can just tap on these links and get your documents, right? Now, moving on to the next topic is about securing the sensitive keys present in the app. And these can range from API keys, SDK keys, auth keys, or tokens, right? This becomes a problem when all our keys are stored in a hard-coded string format in the app, and it becomes quite easy for an attacker to extract them. They can steal passwords or other keys present, use those same credentials to gain access to the server, leak all the information, and probably exhaust usage quota or rack up huge usage bills, maybe in AWS. So there was this case sometime back where a developer's AWS key was leaked, and his bills were now in the millions. Although the good news is that Amazon understood this problem, and then they basically didn't charge that developer, but this could have very well been an enterprise whose key got leaked, right? And then they will be charged. So they just need to run the strings command on your binary app, and boom, all the strings are out in the open. And it just becomes a matter of figuring out which string, basically which string or key belongs where, right? So now, how do they do that? I'd like to show you one tool. Basically, this is an online tool named Godboard, which shows what an attacker will see after your code is decompiled. So as you can see, I took a very small part of the code on the left side, and you can see that the function name is function which is named is jailbroken, right? And it also contains an extremely sensitive key. You can see on the right side that how easy it is to view those function locations in your code, and even your extremely sensitive key is visible, right? So you can see on line number 8 that is jailbroken code is present, and on line number 28 that your key is exposed, right? So what can you do here? As a first step, you can hash all the keys present in your app, either by hashing them yourselves or use a third-party tool like CocoaPod Keys, which is an excellent solution in itself, as in it prevents your keys from being tracked on your version control system as well. But if a hacker finds out what kind of hashing you have used and the salt that you have used for that hashing, right? They will again be able to decompile your strings and expose your keys. So a better solution, albeit it is a bit harder to implement, is to store all these keys on your backend server, right? And then then the app will only communicate with the backend server for any kind of information transfer. Backend, in turn, will use those keys to connect with those platforms and enable the information exchange. Now you can also implement SSL pinning on top of this, this exchange between the information from your app to the backend to prevent any MITM attacks. But with SSL pinning, there comes some risks also. So you need to understand those risks before implementing that, and yes, implement them as per your need. Now let's move on to URL schemes. Now, URL schemes, as we all know, are a way to implement deep links and are a very handy solution. Unfortunately, it comes with its own sets of vulnerabilities. Now, let's look into some of them. URL schemes are not unique to the app, and by nature cannot be made unique either. And because of this loophole, any malicious app can pretend to be your app by handling the same URL scheme and opening, let's say, the login page and steal the user credentials. Nothing you can do to prevent this. It doesn't matter how have you implemented the URL scheme in your own app. A hacker can manipulate the URL scheme in such a way that your app will perform the wrong action. This depends on how you have implemented the handling of the URL scheme. And let's take a look at an example on how hacker can force your app into performing a malicious action. So yeah, basically, let's say you have an implementation to open the URL coming in some deep link as web view inside your app, right? A hacker uses your URL scheme and creates a deep link with their own custom URL, right? As soon as the user taps on that deep link, your URL scheme handler passes the received URL and opens up the web view with it. Maybe that URL looks exactly like a banking app's login page. And in this way, the user credentials get stolen by your app, right? And then your app is in the news, FIRs everywhere, right? Sorry, this might be getting a little political. So what can you do to prevent this? Sanitize the input. Check whether the deep link that you have received is valid and expected or not. If it is a URL, validate it belongs to your domain only, right? Another thing you can do is to move to universal links, which are tied up with your website domain name and by nature are unique to each individual app. So the first kind of attack is not possible. That is to be pretending to your app, to be your app, right? But you will still need to sanitize your inputs by using when you are using universal links. Okay. And lastly, third-party dependencies. And let's take a look how they pose a risk to our apps. Imagine you add a very nice dependency for networking and everything is going fine. And after a few months, when your app is in production and there are a lot of users on it, hopefully, some security researcher finds out that the pod had been logging all the network information on the console. The owners of the pod rushes to quickly patch it, and by the time you receive that update, implement it in your app, release your app, and wait for adoption, your users are vulnerable completely to that loophole, right? So what can an attacker do by adding their code in yours? Basically anything, right? They can crash your app, access the microphone or camera, steal the sensitive data, swizzle any method implementation to perform anything they want. And there are a lot of famous cases of vulnerabilities exposed in the production apps. And you might have heard of this one very recently, right? Log4j. And for those who don't know, it is being termed as one of the worst cyber threat vulnerability till date, right? This zero-day vulnerability allowed the hackers to remotely execute their code and take control of the servers. Like there were some Minecraft players who just had to add some code in their open chat, and then they'll have access to the Minecraft servers itself and do basically anything that they wanted. It was so severe that US FTC, Federal Trade Commission, has threatened to pursue a lawsuit against the companies that don't apply the patch. Another example. So this number, 22 years. This other vulnerability remained undetected for 22 years in the production for the whole world, and it is still not patched completely. This was the shell shock vulnerability in the widely used OpenSSL. Shell shock is a vulnerability that allowed the systems containing a vulnerable version of Bash to be exploited to execute commands with higher privileges. This allowed the attackers to potentially take over that system. So what can you do about it? We need to make sure that we understand what code we are putting in our apps. We can subscribe to the mailing lists or Twitter feeds for those third parties to stay up to date on their patches, right? And lastly, we can minimize the number of third parties entirely. So, with all that being discussed, since this was just an overview of the vast topic of security in mobile apps, some of these topics are in fact so detailed that they'll require a talk of their own. So let me know if you need any detailed talk about any of these topics in future, and then we can plan that accordingly. Meanwhile, people who are interested in the whole mobile app security can visit these links to explore further and find out more exploit that can happen to the mobile apps. You can use the mobile app security verification standard to create a checklist on what you need to implement to basically defend your app, right? Also, you can visit the OWASP mobile security testing guide and check out in detail all the various exploits and checks against them. And it will tell you how to bypass those checks as well. Such a perfect circle, right? Yeah, and with this, I'd like to conclude this talk. This was a very short and sweet lightning session. So thank you.
So thanks, Ravi, for such an enlightening talk. I hope
Thank you.
everyone learned a lot from this. And even when I was going through the session, I felt that okay, I need to look at few places in my app. So guys, now you can move to the Teams link that I have just shared. If you have any thing need to know, if you want to know anything about the talk or anything else from Ravi. So guys, we will be resuming the stream again with the Mustafa session in next 5 to 10 minutes, most probably 5 minutes. So can we join on the Teams link? Let's move to the Teams link. So guys, we are back, and we are back with another good talk. So now I'll be inviting Mustafa for his talk. Hi, Mustafa.
Hey, folks. Hi, everyone. I think, is the camera too zoomed in or is it just me?
Actually, it is too zoomed in.
How do you zoom this out? I just don't get it.
Okay. I think Mustafa is fixing his camera. Now he's up.
Yes,
Uh,
I can see it.
yes, now it is good.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, welcome everyone. It's pretty early in India for me myself as well, and for everyone else joining in from everywhere. Just lovely to have you all. I am Mustafa. I'll just let me just start sharing my screen. Um, is anyone else able to see my screen? Okay, nice. I've got a loop on. I hope everyone can just hear me and see my screen. If y'all can't, just let me know.
Yes, Mustafa.
So yeah, so basically, my name is Mustafa, and I'm an indie developer. That means I build my own apps and ship them on the App Store. Fortunately, I don't have a job at the moment, by choice. And I basically been indie for a while. And today's talk is going to be mainly about us discussing about how to make compositional layouts. So I don't know, for people who've done collection views before composition layouts came in, you had to go with UI collection view, flow layout, delegate, and there was just so much stuff that you would have to do in order to build something that's even slightly complex, or even model like not easy. So for example, the App Store screen, right? I remember looking at this screen 3 years ago and I was like, oh my god, this is going to be so hard to build if I was to use purely a collection view, because each section has different layouts, and it gets very complicated very quickly, and making changes is really hard, right? And if you make one change, you have to compute a bunch of things. You had to cache your you had your custom flow layout delegates, right, which was your custom collection view flow layout, and you'd have to cache the properties, remember what was the value previously, what's the new value, and invalidate the cache. There was just so many things, and that's why I kept using UI table view. Like I've been a UI table view controller person all my life until iOS 13 came out. And iOS 13 came out, it introduced UI Connect, compositional layouts. And after that, life just became so much simpler. Like I've never looked back, and I've ported all of my all of my UI table view controllers or UI table views into UI collection view controllers and UI collection views. And it's just become so good because the composition layout came in, and along with that came in UI collection view data source, diffable data source. So that, and just making my data source and my view bind it together without having to ever go out of sync, that was just a blessing. And so yeah, we'll just be touching on this. And for people like wondering if we're just going to be on slides, this is the last slide. After this, we have no slides. We'll be going into the code and seeing how that goes. So yeah, this is essentially what the UI composition layout does, right? Any table view or any collection view, right? You have your main layout, which is the skeleton, or you could just say that the UI collection view. Now, in the UI collection view, you have the layout, and I think every one of us who's an iOS developer, we know that there are sections in a collection view layout. So in a collection view, right, there are sections and then there are items. But in order to make this even more easier and more adaptable, and have much more use case, there's sections, and sections contain an array of groups, and the groups contain the items. Now, why would we do that? We'll come back to that in code, why the concept of group exists, but it's a beautiful concept. If you want, you can treat the group as an item, right? And the group contains just one item. So that's the main part. Like that's the main thing. Once you know all this, it's all complicated and sounds complex, but it's just so simple when you start to code this, right? So now we just start diving straight into code, right? And what we are going to be trying to build is this. So we're not going to build it because honestly, this talk is just very simple, very lightweighted. It's just not a lot of people know how easy it is. So unless no one tells you how easy it is, you always think of it as something complex or something slightly hard, right? So what we're going to just be building today is a simple UI collection view controller, which has this hero banner thing. Just notice like this has paging enabled by default, right? These things, if you went out, to do yourself with, without using composition layout, like I'd say a much more complex job with composition layout, 5 minutes tops, like not a second more than that. And you have your, now you have your, what do you call it? This is the first section. Then this is the other section in the App Store, and you see this, it scrolls and it stops at the leading edge, which is the same way that the App Store does, right? It doesn't allow you to stop anywhere. And another thing, just for the sake of it, right, just to show you, see if the header on top, header of a section, that's actually being pinned and staying there, just like how you have it in a UI table view, right? You have this property by default when you set it as a plain table view style, as opposed to group, where grouped your headers scroll with the thing, but in plain you can have them stick on top, right? So we're just going to see how hard it was to build this. And if you notice, this is the most this is the toughest thing that it could become. There's there's nothing you can do which is harder than this. So this is the first section. We call this the hero section, and then this is just the app section, right? And now if you see in our hero section, we just have one item, and in the app you see we have 3 items and they are repeating. So if you see this, so this is a group. The 3 items together form a group, and the group is a repeating pattern. So you have an array of groups, right? And inside each group, you have 3 items. So now let's just go into code and just see how simple this is. My entire controller code, right? It just comes down to 100 lines. And that's mainly because I've written it like in a way that, it's and just so that y'all can read it much better. This could be further optimized and everything, but this is just to get the basics, right? You initialize your view controller, and I set up my views, and in my views I register my cells, and then on the collection view you set your layout, and I just have this function says get collection view layout. Now this function is where the secret sauce is, right? This one function is responsible for returning the layout that we want. Now, obviously, it looks like it's a lot, but I've just written it in a poor way so that it's easier to read and understand. And if you remember, our first section has a different layout. So if section index is 0, return this layout. Else, in other cases, just return the normal layout, right? And
Mustafa, if you can increase the font of
oh,
Xcode.
absolutely. Yeah. My bad. I'm not used to themes, presentation.
You can just use the command plus that will increase the size as well.
I think this is, yeah. Right, so this is my function, get collection view layout. I don't need my sidebars, so let's make more space. So all I have to do is just create this one function, and outside this function, right, everything is standard. Number of sections, 10, number of items in rows, 10, and return this cell if it is index 0, which is my hero cell, which is slightly bigger in size. Obviously, hero cell has nothing. It just only thing it has is it's a image with the thing on top, and the normal cells are just app names. So my cells are nothing, but this one thing constitutes a cell, and this one thing constitutes a cell, right? So that's it. And then this is for supplementary views. This is how I return the header for each section. And then actually this doesn't need to be here because this is just the header. So, but I'll just leave it here for now, right? So essentially my whole controller, or like the whole thing, I just return cells as I was like for everyday usage. The beauty that I can do such a complex layout with such lines of code, that's what we're here to explore today. And the way we do it, right? Like the way I personally, the first time I went ahead and did my collection view, right? See, I know my collection view requires a compositional layout. So I just have this habit where I start writing my code and I just say let layout equal to, so I just dot initialize. So when I do init, right, it tells me you need a section and configuration, right? So let me just go ahead and create this. Let config equal to init. Okay. So in config, you'd say your scroll direction if it's horizontal. So in our case, it's vertical. We just put vertical down. And in place of config, we'll just place config. Now section, right? It requires a section. So let me just go ahead and create section. So this is essentially how first time I tried using it, this is how I discovered, because I didn't know what these things are, right? So I'm just doing it the same way that I would have done it. So section. Now section requires a group. So I told you, right? A section is nothing but an array of groups, and the group contains the item, right? So now I need a group. So let me just create a group. So the first time I came here, I was also confused because this initializer is useless. So what you do over here is you specify if your group is a horizontal group or a vertical group. So now if I do a horizontal group, that means my items would be stacked in, horizontally. If I do a vertical group, it will be stacked vertically. So now if you see this, since this is a group and these items are stacked vertically, I would say this is actually a vertical group, right? So you do dot vertical, and then you have to give it a layout size. So that's interesting. Let group layout size is, so you have to provide, width dimension and a height dimension. So if you see our width of this group, right, it's slightly lesser than the screen, and it's giving a little sneak peek of the next thing next to it. So what we do is there's something called fractional width. So what fractional width does is the width that's given or you can take up, right? It tells you that this is the width you can take up. How much of it do you want to take up? So I just say 0.9, so 90% of the screen. So this width would take up 90% of the screen, letting 10%, flow into it. So that's the idea behind this. And height, I just tell it an estimated 100, so it can automatically compute the height. So based on what my cells are or what my items inside the group are, it will automatically calculate its height. So I have officially given it a group layout size. I've created the group. Now it's asking me for sub items, right? So over here, if you see, we have 3 items. Now this group initializer, there are 2 of it. So there's one in which you can create an array of sub items, but the other one is where you can give sub item and count. So if you have one item and you're trying to repeat it, right? So in our case, we have one item and we're repeating it 3 times. So the count would be 3. If you had it just 2 times repeating, it would be 2, right? And so that's the thing there. And now in here, we have to pass this. Let me just delete this. So you have your layout size. I created my group layout size, so I'm just passing that. And this requires this. So let item equal to. So now I have my item. To the item, I have to pass this. So it's nothing but an item size. So let item equal to. So now I'm just specifying the item size. Now, if you see my group, right, the group has a set frame. Now the item is supposed to take up some space in it, right? We can see each item, there are 3. So obviously it'll take 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, right? So I'll just tell whatever the space is available to you, fractional height, width would be complete. So I'd say take up the complete width, and the height of it would be 1/3. So that 3 can fit in, right? And 3 of them are stacked. Now that's the item layout size. And I just pass the item layout size. And I can just pass the item here. And this is the layout, and I just return the layout. Right, so now I've just written this code, and let's just see what this builds out, right? I have my existing one written below, but just see how this translates directly into a view. So right now, these are all getting slightly compressed, and the reason for that would be nothing but the estimated height. So if I see this estimated height, that is proving to be wrong. So for time being, let me just fix that to, just a second. Okay, so I'm just going to fix that to be 256 for the moment, because my cells, or my, what do you call it, my UI, my collection, my constraints are not set up in a way that it can automatically compute that. Now, if you see, it's setting up a group of 3, and it's, it's putting a 3, 3, 3, 3 here. Now, what I want to do is, I want the collection view is flowing vertically, which is correct, right? But I want my each section to flow horizontally. So there's some property called on section orthogonal scrolling. So orthogonal scrolling, if this property by default is none, right? When it is none, it means orthogony, which is like the axis, opposite to. So if my collection view is scrolling vertically, orthogonal scrolling behavior would be the one which is, going horizontally. So if I just specify this to be continuous, what it'll do is each section would flow horizontally, if that makes sense. So each section flows horizontally, and then the views flow vertically. Now if you see, the cells are not fitting in, like the third cell is not coming in. Let's just see for a second what that is. It probably has to do something with sizing. Layout size, group size, item size. Just a second. I think it's just, it's not able to fit in for some, sorry, I put my count as 3, like an idiot. Yeah, so this count was 3, I just made it, yeah, now it's just 3, right? So this is how, now if you want to give spacing between them, right, that again is just so simple. So in my group, I just say group.inter item spacing. It's fixed, say 10 points. There you go. Now intersection spacing, so like on config dot section spacing is equal to, say, another 10 points. And now I've got spacing between section. Now if you see between groups, there's no spacing, so that again is so simple. Section dot inter group spacing, another 10 points. So now I have spacing on all paths, right? So I have spacing between cells, like this is intra item spacing, this is inter group spacing, and this is intersection spacing. Now, if you see, my leading edge is touching this, and we wouldn't want that, right? So on section, you just set content inset in it. Say top, you don't want any inset. Leading, you want, say, 16. And bottom, you want nothing. And trailing, you want 16. So now what this will do is it'll give an inset to the left and the right everywhere. Like that's just too simple. That's made too simple for us. And if you want to now do something more, right? Yeah. So if you want to do anything more, right? Like for example, what else could we do? We could add paging, right? So now if you see orthogonal scrolling behavior, there are all these options. So in the thing, leading boundary, right? So so continuous group leading boundary, group paging centered. So your group would be centered always. And if you want just standard paging, this would just do the standard paging, right? You just have to change that key, and that's all it does. Like this is there. So now the reason it's being paged towards the left is because your insets are set in such a way. So there's item spacing and inset, so it's getting offsetted by that much. But if you want to just do it, you can just have continuous group leading. So the group's lead will always be in the beginning. Like no matter what you do, the group will always be at the leading. So this is essentially what the App Store has, right? So we very well figured out a way just to write a layout. Like it's just hit and pass. Like you keep iterating, you keep figuring out what you want to build. You go through, just like how I did it. I just reversed my steps, right? I know it has to return this. I know it has to return a UI collection view composition layout. It requires a section and config. So let me provide the section and config. A section requires a group, so I provided the group. The group requires the item, so I made the item. And just like that, within these many lines of code, right, you made a layout that's fairly complex early, like I would personally be scared to implement this before UI collection compositional layout came in. And the cool thing is, so there's two initializers to this. So a lot of times you have sections, and each of your sections, are unique or don't share the same layout. So you have this function which returns the section index, and then it returns a layout environment. This is essentially if you want to know any properties of the parent or something. So that's the layout environment that you need. And over here, you just have to return a section. So if I place this here, right, it would just make this layout return this section. So layout would go outside. So I can return this. And yeah, the config, since this is a config to the composition layout, it just come here and you pass the config here, and that's it. So this way you have actually missing a return. So now you have the same layout, right? Because for all, now if you want, you can explicitly have a switch and section index. So if section is 0, then do this. If section is 1, do this. If section is 2, do this. But ideally, you don't want to do 1, 2, 3, and so on. So you can optionally, like, you can have a better way to determine what section is being referred to. So, like, for example, if you have your structure would have a type. So it would just be like sections of, section index dot type. So then you would have your type, you would get it. Then you would say if it's hero style, or if it's normal style, or if it's whatever complex style, right? So you would accordingly return different types of sections based on that. So now I can just gladly delete all this, and I'll just show this. So now over here, what we've done is, on section 0, I'm just assuming it's the hero section. And on section 1, it's just the layout we just did right now. And now in the hero section, again, let's just walk through what we did. We created a section. And since we wanted to take the whole space up, right, it has one group, and the group has just one item because we just need one thing in it. Nothing more, nothing less, right? And in that, you have your layout created. So now my group size, if you see, fractional width is 1. So it's supposed to take up the entire width and the absolute height. So I fixed the height to be 256. Now the group takes an item, right? So now the item inside the group, fractional width is 1 and fractional height is 1, because you want it to take the entire space of a group. You don't want to share it with anyone, right? So that's the idea behind it. And just like that, I just return it and it's done. Like that's essentially how we created our two sections, the hero and this. Now there's another interesting thing is, how do you make the headers, right? So on, like, personally, you just learn this the way, like, you just do section dot. This is essentially how I go about learning things. Section dot, I see intergroup spacing, I see orthogonal scrolling behavior. Now boundary supplementary items. So I think if people who've been using UI collection views, there's something called supplementary views, which has been how you create headers, how you create footers, and all of these things, right? So now in the same way, you have boundary supplementary items. Now by setting the boundary supplementary item like we've done over here, right, we created a header, because boundary supplementary item takes in this. Sorry, yeah. The initializer takes in an array of these things, right? So if I try to do init, this is the initializer I get. Now in this, there are a bunch of things, right? You can choose whichever initializer suits you best. It's more of a hit and try. Like I can tell you, I can do one case, but if for your use case, you'd have to try out the one that works best for you. So in my case, I just created a supplementary layout item. And in that, the layout size, I've said width dimension, you take the full width, but height, you just take 50 points, right? An estimated height. So it would resize based on the subview. And then I pass it an element kind, and then I say alignment. So alignment top leading, it would be on the top leading. And if I want it to be pinned, right? Like when I scroll over here, you see head of a section stays there till the next one doesn't come in. I just have to set pins to visible grounds true. That's it, nothing else. And I guess that's it. And once you implement you implement this, you get a callback over here in this function, which has been there for a while now. View for supplementary element of kind. So you just dequeue your header view, and that's it. I guess like there's a lot more that you can do. You can have badges, you can have this, you can have that, and whatnot. And honestly, there's no better way for me to help y'all out. Just the pointing you to this app is like the holy grail of it. This is probably the one of the best apps that Apple has done. And what it does is it shows you how do you make grids in collection views, how do you make grids with inset items, how do you have 2-column grids. So if you want to have 2 columns for a particular layout, a table, this would be perfect. If you want to have distinct sections where this section is different, and how to, so there's background decoration view. So if you see over here, you just do section dot decoration. So decoration items is how you want to decorate a section. You can have a fancy border, you can have whatever you like, honestly. So in this case, they've added a border with a background color that decorates your section. A perfect example of where we see these decorations is in settings. All of these sections are have a white boundary of sort where only the top and bottom is clipped. So that's an example of where Apple uses them. And then you have orthogonal sections, so you see this group has a pattern, 1, 2, and 3 cells. These are a group, and then it just repeats. And I could go on and on and on. And I think this app by Apple, they've made this, and I've attached links to this. So if you see in my presentation, the last slide is essentially the resources. So Apple has an amazing talk, much better than mine for obvious reasons, about how to just do collection view layouts very well. And then this sample project, the one I showed you, the app, so you just build the sample project and it will just work out of there. And this talks demo and this talks Xcode project, everything along with the slides is linked, and I'll just put the GitHub link within this. So let me just copy this GitHub link. I think the repo is private, and let me just paste this on YouTube. I have a kid, that's why you see my YouTube suggestions like that. And you'll find the slides and everything within that place. So, and I guess that's about it for the talk. The whole point is just to motivate you and show you how easy it is. I can show you 1 layout, 2 layouts, but every layout of yours will be completely different and complex in whichever nature of just let me stop. So yeah, every layout will be extremely different for every user. So I can't really handhold and show you exactly there, how to do that. But what I can do is just show you how easy it is. And then from there on, you can just take it forward. So I guess that's pretty much it. You can always reach out to me on Twitter. It's Mufasa YC, Mufasa from Lion King. And if you all have any questions, glad to take them up in the team call after this talk.
Thank you, Mustafa. Actually, it was very, enlightening for me how you created so complicated things with very easy, stuff. So before moving to the Q&A session, I would like to, add Meet to the group. He wants to talk about something. Meet, you are up.
Thanks, Lavkesh. And thanks, Mustafa. And I really like your Twitter handle. That's Mufasa. It kind of brings me some memories of Lion King. And so it was quite kind of an interesting talk, and definitely I believe that everybody kind of learned some bits about security, compositional layouts, and accessibility during these talks. And I'm so sorry about the technical glitches. It kind of some difficulties are there these days for in organizing such meetups in remote setup. and I heard the suggestions around different platforms, like not using Teams or using something else. So I kind of understand, and thanks a lot for those inputs, and we'll definitely keep that in mind in the next time when we'll be kind of having our next event. uh, Most likely we'll be kind of having next event around Android, and so kind of keep looking at the mobile flock space. uh, Thanks everybody for joining, and it is a journey wherein like we'll be evolving, and this remote thing, we kind of learn to work remotely, but about having meetups remotely, we are still learning. We'll keep learning. uh, so Lavkesh had shared some links in the live chat. Please, let's kind of connect for a quick chit chat and kind of get to know each other and a little networking on Teams. And guys who can't install Teams, bear with me, or maybe you can install it on your smartphone and do connect with us. Please, let's kind of have a short chit chat and get to know each other. And also we need your feedback. So Lavkesh kind of shared some of the feedback um, forms, and please fill those forms and share your feedback with us. This meetup, we brought this one from in collaboration with Tata Click. I think so there's some noise coming in from my teams. Yeah, I was just saying that this meetup was kind of done in collaboration with Tata Click team. So please fill up the form for feedback so that we can kind of improve upon that. If anybody is interested in kind of exploring some opportunities as at Tata Click, please share your interest by kind of DMing me or filling that form up. um, it would be kind of interesting to kind of work with you all who are technology enthusiasts and have taken the pain to kind of learn something different here. Some of the speakers across different cities in India to learn on during the weekends. So it's very interesting, and would love to kind of collaborate with that. With that note, I would like to kind of close, and let's meet in the Teams. See you there. Thanks, everybody. Have a nice weekend.
Thanks, guys. Thanks a lot for joining. Bye. Please join the Teams link.
Yeah, and we'll be kind of posting the slides links via speaker deck. So all the details will be posted by I think within a couple of hours on mobile flock meetup link, and on LinkedIn or Twitter. So keep looking at the space if you're interested in reading those slides again and kind of want to refer in your future developments. Thanks again. Over to you, Lavkesh.
Thanks, Meet. So, guys, thanks for joining. So, please join the Teams link if you have any queries regarding Mustafa, or you just want to listen to other people and listen to Mustafa again. Thanks for joining. Signing off. Bye.